Hello everybody, this is a quick video, probably not so quick, video about the changes made recently to the SLAB, which is my lever action blaster. Really quick, apologies if you can hear printer sounds from across the room. I'm currently printing the next prototype of this thing. But yeah, so printer sounds, sorry. But the SLAB, lever action blaster, I made an update to it. So I'm just going to go through the write-ups I did of the update. I have it over here on my second monitor, which you can't see. And I'm just going to show you the changes in the CAD and go over why I made them. First change is I added Vikinger, also known as Liam Mattingly's logo, to the inside of the stock. He was the original designer of the stock that the SLAB stock is based off of, and he passed away a few months ago. So I felt that it was the right thing to do to add his logo to the inside of the stock, because he designed the stock, and it's very nice. And I felt like it was, right thing to do. Moving on, I improved the printing of the plunger head. The plunger head is now slightly thicker. If we go in here, plunger head is now slightly thicker, mainly this area right here in between the screw hole and that top layer. Previously, if you were printing really fast and didn't have very good bridging, the screw hole could poke through the back of the plunger head, which I don't think caused any issues, but just didn't look nice. So I made this a few millimeters thicker on this back surface, and that's fixed right up. I improved printing on a lot of the parts. On some of these parts, there were like little modeling errors where there were sharp corners, or like sliced off parts that shouldn't have been sliced off. Little errors that caused the slicer to not be happy when trying to print it. So I fixed all of those. I added an optional screw hole the inside of the right panel. So right here, this screw, you can see there's a screw hole there now. That is for looping a rubber band around this new updated trigger block, which now has a little notch cut into it. This rubber band tensions the top bar. That tensioning is not necessary for mechanical function of the blaster. However, it's nicer. It's higher quality. Previously, if you had the blaster primed and the lever back, so the lever in the firing position, but everything was primed, the top bar would just be loose, kind of wibbly-wobbling all over the place. Actually, is that right? It might be the other way around. When it's not primed, it was wibbly-wobbly. Either way, in one position or the other, the rod and the rod cap were not held under tension, and they would just rattle around if you're moving the blaster around. So this little rubber band takes care of that. Moving on. There we go. I added a new top rail, which is this black bit right here. Previously, there was nothing up there. So now this top cover has two little screw holes, like that, and a optional little piece of picatinny rail. It's meant to have the slanted edge of the picatinny facing forwards to match with this rail, but this is symmetrical, so you can, spin it around and have those picatinny bits facing the other direction if you really cared. Like that. Doesn't matter which way you have it. So yeah, now you can have higher picatinny if you want to have like a red dot or something up there. Next, I need to read the list of changes. I added an experimental new RAM, which hasn't been tested much. The previous experimental RAM was called Pointy Tip, and it didn't really work very well. Where do I have the new RAM? Here it is. Wait, no. Yeah, this. Here we go. This is a new RAM design. It is designed so that when the dart is pushed by this front bit up here, it still allows airflow from the turnaround to come up, down, or come down and then go forwards into the dart, which should reduce squibs or misfiring. If I go this way, if I find the turnaround there. So you can see that the airflow path is now nice and open for the air to come up, or come up from the bottom and then go in behind the dart, instead of with a flat face. So if the ram stopped right here, instead of getting the flat face ram, I'm just gonna do that. There you go. So if it's like that, if the dart stays right here on the back of the ram, it kind of blocks the airway path, and that's what causes those sort of misfires where the dart kind of shoots and kind of flops out the barrel. This is probably the main cause of it. So I added this new ram, which should fix it. Problem with this is you need to fully prime the blaster forwards all the way in order for it to clear the back of the magazine, because it is longer than the normal ram. So it's a trade-off between, if you don't prime the blaster all the way forwards past the point where it catches, then it won't feed as reliably. However, it should fire more reliably once the dart is in the chamber. Moving on, I added a new trigger. So if we look at this outline, and let's go this way, look at this outline, mainly back here, you can see the difference there. So the new one is the smaller one. Shouldn't change the printability much, but it does make more clearance at the back. And I did this because I noticed on one of the blasters that Out of Darts sent me. Long story short, they sent out a blaster to a reviewer, but it got damaged in shipping. Like the shipping truck like sat outside on like 120-degree day or some crap like that, and just melted. Got bent like 3 inches in the middle. So they sent it back, and I asked for it because they were going to recycle it. So I was like, "Hey, can I have that with the order that I'm already getting?" And I got a free broken slab, but a free slab nonetheless. Anyway, I noticed that on that the trigger would get jammed if you pulled it back to like this point. Then something in here would catch up on the lever. So in order to solve that, I just made the trigger a little bit thinner in the back. Shouldn't change the trigger feel at all, or like it shouldn't feel any different for you to use. However, it does fix that possible issue. Moving on, I added a experimental new left side panel with more clearance for the trigger rod. So you can see here. There you go. You can see this is the new one. It needed to have a little bit of clearance here for the pin, but that should be fine, hopefully. That's why it's experimental. Previously, it was like this, and the rod here, the threaded rod, would rub against that top area. Again, wouldn't cause issues mechanically, but it just doesn't feel as nice and doesn't sound as nice. So gave that a little bit extra clearance there. The biggest change in this update was I changed how the Magwell attaches to the turnaround. So you can see here, it now has a little tab sticking out of the bottom, and it has a tab sticking out of the bottom instead of the 2 screws here and here. That would go all the way through and then connect up here. Now it has a little tab at the bottom, and then this tab is extremely filleted. I had a previous version of this where it was just the tab, but it was squared off. So it was more like that, which of course made this a massive stress riser, and then it would just snap that off. So now this has a mega fillet on it, and I also made it wider and thicker. So yeah, this is now nice and durable and shouldn't snap off. And I think that is finally the solution to SLAB Magwell snapping off. It wasn't a widespread issue, but every once in a while, like once every 1 or 2 months, I would get a message from someone saying, hey, I broke the magwell off my slab. And I sent them this file, and it's worked for them every time, so now I've added it to the main file set. Inside of this new model of turnaround, I also added little ridges up here. I'm not sure if you can see very well, so I'll highlight those. Those are sticking out of the wall of this dovetail, and that makes it tighter at the very top. It's very subtle, but it does make it tighter, and that prevents rattle of the magwell, which wasn't a issue even for feel. Like, you can't even feel the rattle, but I think that one of the reasons why this was snapping off was the dovetails weren't completely tight when fully installed. However, you don't want to have them tight the entire way up, or else it's hard to put the blaster together. Hence, has little tiny tightening ribs at the very top. So once you put it in most of the way, you can just tap it home with like a mallet or something, and it'll be nice and flush, and that should be nice and sturdy. Yeah. If we go over to the next change, and with that, I also made the bulge here on the front of the magwell, and I made that thicker as well when I added the filleted area. So yeah, now your blaster has a bulge there, which is fine. Next thing is I changed the screw holes up here. It's very subtle, but previously this sort of long teardrop shape extended to like right here-ish. Sorry for the flashing lights. That's because there's multiple models on top of each other. There you go. It extended to like right down here, and that... Sorry, I have an alarm on my phone. That made this too thin, right there, and that wouldn't print well. So I made that slightly thicker. I added a small little notch to the inside of the catch. We find it where's the catch? Here it is, catch. Added this little tab here in the optional pen spring hole thing, and that just keeps the spring in place, prevents it from flying off during assembly. I added little spacers in between the priming bars and the lever. Those prevent those from wobbling. And I probably did more stuff, but I honestly can't remember it. This was like a big old bucket of changes that I did over several months and didn't release until recently. If I recall correctly, these changes occurred from like November to March. Like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months of changes. And now they're out online. So that alarm was for me to go and take my dinner out of the oven. So I'm going to go do that before my house burns down. There's a second alarm to go do that. And hope that you enjoyed this quick little overview video. Go print a slab. Yeah, if you have a current slab and you want to print these upgrade parts, they should be completely compatible with your previous slab, as long as it has a V4 slab. V4 slabs are anything that happened after release. A V3 slab was only during beta period, so very few people will have that. Basically, if you have a slab and if you have a printer, you can probably print these parts and they will fit your blaster very nicely, and it will be a slight improvement. So yeah, enjoy the parts. I need to go and get my food out of the oven before my house burns down. Yeah.